The McShin Foundation is Virginia's leading peer-to-peer recovery community organization. So if you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, let us get you connected. Build your self-esteem and lead you to a solid foundation in your recovery. Check us out.
Thanks everybody. So we'll just get a couple of things out there. First, was it not worth the price of admission to hear Shinholzer talk about hip hop? Right? It's like, I mean, if anybody should ever have a podcast on hip hop, right? That was the Wu-Tang Clan. Right? They ain't nothing to fuck with. And I hear you, brother. Man, Lori Dew and I, we have a black son, so we kind of count a little bit. We're Brooklyn liberals, so you're in good company, you're okay. So where to even start with this? I'm going to, let's see, hang on. I make notes, and I'll try to get through some of it. Oh, and also I do want to go on record that I was not the guy who tried to get Lori Dew drunk. That was not me. I dazzled her with my warehouse full of heroin addicts and dogs. So that was, I guess, what did the trick. 7 years ago, almost to this very day, I lost the best friend I ever had. He died. He overdosed and died in a hotel room in New Jersey. Like, Jersey, Jesus. He left a wife. He left 3 boys. He left me. He left his unrealized potential. He left his comic genius, which he always had a lot of feelings about how Larry, the cable guy, could fill such huge theaters. And we were at the Comedy Castle in Detroit. Do you know this place, the Comedy? You did, yeah, okay. So you know what goes on there, right, Judge? Right, I'm sure you've heard a story or two about the Comedy Castle. The traditional 30-day course of treatment didn't do anything, and he'd been to rehab many, many times. And we kept telling him to go back to rehab. We kept telling him, you're not willing, you didn't do a 4th step, you didn't pray, all of those kinds of messages. And I'm here to tell you that rehab, it does not work. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. First of all, what is the goal of rehab? I believe the goal of rehab is abstinence. So that works about 5% of the time, right? Go to rehab, maybe 5% of the people will stay totally abstinent for a year. So what is this that we keep telling people to go to rehab? It's a street corner scam, is what it is. We're getting nowhere with the 30-day residential rehab. And we are all complicit in this lie. We are one giant dysfunctional family pretending that we're doing something, and we're not. We're not doing anything but dropping bodies. There's no other way to look at this. Does anybody remember the dentist in the 70s? Probably not. Some of you, certainly not. Oh, Carol does. Thank you, Carol. You remember the dentist in the 70s. It was a horrible experience. They pinned you down and they made you bite on this thing, and there was this like vest so you didn't get radiation, and they took your, they made you do all this stuff. And now they get out the iPhone and they're like, oh, look, here's your tooth. You want to see it from the other direction? So that's really improved dentistry. Like, that's gotten unbelievably better. Every area of healthcare is better, except addiction. Why is that? Breast cancer is better, not cured. Diabetes, better, not cured. Seen some of these prosthetic devices of these young guys that come back from war? Could you imagine that in the Vietnam era? It's like science fiction. Like, you couldn't even conceive of these young guys ever walking again. And here they are, running marathons and addiction, we're at 5% success rate. And we dazzle people with 1930s folklore, is what we give them. You know, Bill would have wanted it that way. Have you ever read about Bill? And I'm an AA guy. Bill was crazier than a shithouse rat. Like the idea that we defer everything to Bill W. from 1936 with a malady as complex as addiction is just insane. It is just an insane practice. I mean, I think that the real question is, what do we really believe addiction is? Because we say it's a disease, right? We have the disease of addiction. It's a family disease. Addiction's a disease. Is it? Is that really what we think addiction is? Because we don't act like it's a disease. We act like it's some kind of thing that you can shoot people for. Imagine if we applied what we do to addiction to other diseases, right? We walk by, the cops have got these guys spread on the ground, gun in the ear. Hey, officer, what'd they do? They're diabetics and they ate Skittles. You believe it? We told them Skittles will make them sick and they did it anyway. We told them that. Their blood sugar, it's off. What are we gonna do? We're gonna have to shoot them. What about obese people? What if they go into McDonald's? Right? We told you. Obesity is going to lead to type 2 diabetes. It's going to lead to a heart attack. We told you. How many times are we going to have to do CPR on you? All for your cheeseburgers. So we don't believe that addiction is a disease. We believe that it's some kind of behavioral malady that we can punish people for, that we can incarcerate them for. And we are complicit in that because we're not, as Ryan Hampton says, we're not voting. We're not demanding anything different. We're just letting it all happen. Let's see, where are we now? Blood sugar, obese people. The state of Ohio has said they need additional refrigerated trucks to handle the number of bodies that they're dropping. What? I mean, can you even imagine? Like, what kind of a thing is that? You know, we're dropping 110 bodies a day to overdoses. Like, that's just an incredible number of things here. And by the way, twice that many people to alcohol. Everybody's brought up the overdose, and well, we should. I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about the overdose rate. We should. But 88,000 people a year drink themselves to death. So we are on the cusp of something. I don't know what that something is, but we've got to do something different. There's just no two ways about it. And AA, as we all know, is nothing without their slogans. The ones that rhyme are the ones that really just send me to the, can't do the ones that rhyme, please. Please, no rhyme. No stinking thinking, all that bullshit. But one of the things that we say in AA constantly is if nothing changes, nothing changes. Anybody ever been to an AA meeting? You ever hear that one? You always do what you've always done. You'll always get what you've always gotten. So if we're always going to tell people, go to rehab, pray, do a proper 4-step, we're not going to change the overdose rate. It's not going to change. In fact, it gets worse. Like every time you see the latest data, you think, and it gets worse, state by state. So what is the solution to this? This is the interesting part. This is where we're going to get really interesting. States with medicinally dispensed, legal, and accessible cannabis have 25% fewer overdose deaths than states that don't. So if you said to a government official, your congressman, your mayor, whatever, hey, there's something out there without education, without the knowledge from physicians, without anybody promoting it, that is reducing the rate of overdose by 25%, you'd think they'd want to hear, right? They don't. New Mexico was the first state to list opiate dependence as a qualifying condition for their medicinal cannabis program, and the governor, Susana Martinez, not a Democrat, she vetoed it. I don't get it myself. I think it's just the judgment and the shame, and we are part of that judgment and shame because there are people who are not now, nor will they ever be totally abstinent. And we can't have that be the only goal or the only metric of success in recovery. There's a lot of things wrong with me. And I credit the Jesuits. Judgment's not one of my things. Just not one of my things. Even before I stopped drinking, and the idea that you can be arrested in New York for vaping, can you imagine? Like the shit that used to go on in this city, you know, you can get arrested. You know, you'd be on the subway in the 90s and guys would say, hey, don't give the homeless guy any money. Don't give him money. He's just gonna use it for drugs. And I would think, that's what I was gonna use it for. Like, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge these people? Like, it's just an insane thing that you are an unworthy person if you are not willing or are not willing yet to be a totally abstinent person. Now, the next question is, why cannabis? Here's why cannabis. There's no lethal dose of the stuff. That's why. There is no lethal dose. People try to say, sure there is. There are theoretical lethal doses of cannabis. It's like 200 pounds in 15 minutes. Right? Yeah. So the way, 1 minute, okay, well, hang on a second. We'll see. I'm not quite sure we're gonna meet that goal. So, you know, the way to die smoking weed is the DEA comes through the door and shoots you. Like, that's the way that's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen in any other way. So here's the thing, and I will wrap this up, I promise. So what is rehab? What is it for? I don't know, I can't figure it out. I've worked in rehabs for 20 years. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. I really don't know. Like, well, you know, these people come in and, okay, so this is AA indoctrination camp, right? You might see a psychiatrist once in 30 days for 15 minutes. You might see an individual therapist, but you're sure as shit going to a ton of AA meetings on that dumb bus, right? They're gonna pile you in there and drive you to AA. We know that that's gonna happen. And if that were so effective, why the body count? Sometimes I think it's like gay conversion therapy, right? You will be abstinent. Like, people who are gay, I used to think, does it work the other way? Can they make you gay? Cause like, you know, can women stop ruining my fucking life? No offense. That'd be great, wouldn't it? So if it doesn't work in the other way, how could it possibly work in the, you know, people are who they are, but we bring these people in and we try to make them do something for our comfort. I like the idea of abstinence. Nancy Reagan likes that idea. We all like the idea of abstinence, so that's it. There's no other choices. There's no other options. We're not gonna counsel you. We're not gonna walk through this with you. We're not gonna do any of it. We're gonna make you be abstinent or tell you you're a failure. Better is better. So a quick, right, so I decided, okay, let's just, you know, fuck it. We'll just have a treatment center and we'll let them smoke weed. And we're gonna call it High Sobriety. And we've been open now since January. It's created, I mean, I get the emails I get. I'm called everything from a drug dealer, snake oil salesman. For some reason, I get a lot of emails from Unitarian ministers. I did not know these people loved weed the way they do, but I get blessings from Unitarian ministers. Thank you. Thank you for this work you're doing. When people were dropping bodies, the first call was abstinence. The evangelical Christian right movement jumped on the HIV crisis. We can tell people how to behave sexually, and they're going to have to listen to us or they will die. So that was, I mean, people here, you all remember, right? That was the thing. No sexual activity, no transmission of sexual diseases. And it went nowhere. It didn't stop the rate of transmission for anything. Harm reduction stopped the rate of transmission. Condoms, needle exchange programs. Cannabis is the harm reduction. It is the condom of the opiate crisis. One quick story, I promise. This kid comes to me, and he came in with infected injection sites and blah, blah. You know, we couldn't even talk to him, and his pants below his ass. You know, that whole thing. Like, I see you over there. That whole thing, it drives me crazy. Anyway, comes in, whatever. We get him off heroin. We get him on to medicinally dispensed cannabis, which, P.S., I don't consume the stuff. I actually hate it. But there is something to it, and the doctor that we have tries to figure out, well, what's good about this stuff? Is it the detox for them? Does it help them stay off of it? Does it treat depression? Does it treat anxiety? If they deschedule it, we can tell you. We can't empirically tell you anything. So the kid comes in, comes back to me last week, 6 months off heroin, says, I'm smoking a lot of weed, though. Okay, well, all right. But, you know, got a job, got a little apartment, taking some classes at Santa Monica College. I'm calling this a success. So he says, well, my girlfriend doesn't like the weed. And I said, do you like the girlfriend or do you like the weed? Because I don't get to make these choices for you. What I know is dead people don't decide between weed and a girlfriend. This kid is now grown to the point where he's relational with other people. Do I work it out with the girlfriend? Do I tell her that this is what keeps me off of heroin? Do I say, I thought about it, I'm gonna take the weed and the video games, you're gonna have to go? I don't know. I don't know. I don't have the answer for them. And that's really maybe the thing that I think we're missing, is that as practitioners or as people in recovery, we have to remember we're there for them. They're not there for us. I want this kid off all of it. Cessation of all drug use. I want him working. I want him in school. I want him doing all these things that are going to make me feel like social worker of the year. But they don't always listen to me, unfortunately. So I think that that's really the point of harm reduction and cannabis replacement, is dead people find no recovery. And I think, do I have any? I think I just glossed over the whole thing, we'll see. And I will stop, I promise, I'll stop here. The other email we get all the time that is heartbreaking is we took our son to rehab 5 times, he overdosed and he's dead, and no one told us about harm reduction. We didn't know that that was any kind of option. So to me, it's like being an oncologist and saying, well, we could try chemo, we could try surgery, and there's this other thing called radiation that I'm going to pretend doesn't exist because I have a personal moral objection to it. So we just won't do that. We're only going to give you the options that I like, or the options that make me feel good. That is malpractice. And most people are guilty of it. And that's really how we started High Sobriety. I was like, I can't do it anymore. I really can't. I mean, I just tell these people, hey man, smoke weed. Why don't you try that for a while? Like, you know, like it's a secret. So we finally just said, forget it, there's no secret. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for this.